The horse world is full of myths, rules, regulations, scarcity, judgment, misinformation, misunderstandings, and misconceptions. The horse world seems like it wants you not to think too deep about those rules and regs and misinformation so that you do not upset the status quo. I want to let you know that you can stand up against all that and you can live your own desired life with your own horses the way that you want to. However, I am only speaking here to horse lovers who want to build their horse's self-esteem, their relationship with their horse, and those who want to have the feelings they had longed for ever since they first fell in love with horses, the thinking, caring riders. Now, you don't have to do what I do. You don't even have to like what I do. Be free to be you. However, if you do like what I do, then follow along with me and find out what is possible when you open your eyes, your ears, and especially you open your mind to the fact that the horse world is living in the dark ages, and most of the loudest people in the horse world want to keep it exactly there. Yet everything in our world has evolved, improved, become more conscious, more enjoyable. Why not the horse world? You know, there are people who swim with white pointer sharks now. They live with lions and hyenas and more. So what the hell is the horse world doing? Still using bits, tying mouths shut, stabbing with spurs, whipping, holding and forcing and making horses do their bidding. There are much better ways for the horse and for the person. I found a way, and that is what I want to talk about in this video. Hi, I'm Tony Lander, and together with my partner Francie Hetalendi, I run a company called Equisit Way of Life, where we encourage horse people to think into their relationship with their horses and consider a completely different way to interact, to live with, and ride those beautiful horses. I want to introduce a concept to you called Equisit Natural Collection. And this is especially for thinking riders and caring riders. Equisit Natural Collection is a way to enable our horses to freely and willingly do collection and high collection in their own way without any forcing, without any making, no demanding, and without training collection in the way that most of the horse world tries to do it. This truly is a completely different paradigm, completely different way of life. For years, I was one of the top instructors at one of the biggest natural horsemanship programs in the world. And every single time I asked my own teachers a simple question, how do I get further? I got the same 4 words back. Just improve your foundation. Now let's stop on that for a second because it sounds like real advice, but it isn't. Think about what those 4 words actually tell you to do. They just tell you to keep doing the same thing you've been already doing and hope that one day it works better. What they do not give you is a way to change. They don't tell you what to try differently tomorrow. It never worked for me at all. And that's when I realized the problem wasn't me. It wasn't my foundation. The problem was the entire method I've been taught. So when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was lucky enough to see a live show called The Dancing Andalusian Stallions. Now, I knew almost nothing about horses yet, except I knew from 3 years old that I wanted a horse, but I never owned one. I still remember exactly how I felt watching those Andalusian horses move. It was like they were floating, like they were dancing on their own back legs, carrying almost no weight on the front legs at all, doing things with their bodies that looked impossible. I didn't have words for what I was seeing back then, but now I do. It's called high collection. That's a technical word for when the horse shifts its whole weight back onto its hind legs and lifts the front end. That's what lets a horse look powerful and light at the exact same time, like a dancer instead of a plough horse. Here's what I noticed even as a kid. Nobody was forcing those horses to move like that. You can't drag or push a horse into looking that free. If you try to force it, you get the opposite, a stiff, tense, unhappy animal. So the question that stuck with me for the next 40 years was simple. If it isn't force that creates that kind of movement, what is it? Every trainer I asked after that gave me some version of the same answer. Use more contact, meaning pull more on the reins. Ride the horse more forward. Use more pressure and then release it. Work on your foundation. Get your horse fitter. I tried every one of those answers. None of them worked. Not for me, not for my horses. It never felt right. It never felt that I got the feelings of the results I was looking for. So I did what any serious committed rider would do. I went out and I tested the standard methods, one at a time, to see which one could actually get me there. And I started with dressage because dressage is the riding discipline that claims collection as its whole goal. Instructors kept telling me my horse needs to be on the bit, meaning use the reins to hold the horse's head and neck in a certain rounded position. I could never get it to look like the other good riders had, And on the rare times I got close, I could feel exactly how it was being done. Pushing the horse forward hard with my legs and holding the horse's head in place with reins. And keep that pressure until the horse gives in and holds the shape for you. There was no lightness in that. There was no partnership. It was just push, pull, hold, repeat. And here's the part that really bothered me. Mechanically, it doesn't even make sense. Think about it like driving a car. If collection means shifting weight backward onto the horse's hind legs while you push the horse forward into the wall of pressure at the front, that's like stepping on the gas pedal and the brake pedal at the exact same time. You're asking that horse to do the two opposite things at once. And every one of those methods I tried always ended up putting more weight on the horse's forehand, the exact opposite of what collection is meant to be. So I tried trail riding, I tried endurance riding, I tried western riding, different saddles, and I tried different rules, but at the same underlying belief hiding behind every one of them. The horse is the thing that needs to be fixed or corrected. Nobody I trained with ever once asked, wait, what if it's not the horse? It had been done this way for hundreds of years. The old masters said so, and that was apparently the end of the conversation. So in the early 90s, I found Pat Pirelli's program, Natural Horsemanship. For the first time, I had a method that actually made sense to me. It explained horses' behavior using pressure and release and timing, cause and effect. I could actually test it and predict. I trained in it seriously for years. I was one of their top course instructors, teaching students all over the world. But even that method had a ceiling. Underneath it all, it was still built on the same idea. Apply pressure, take it away at the right moment, ask for a little more each time. Yet real collection, the kind I'd seen in those Andalusian stallions as a kid, stayed out of reach no matter how good I got at the method. Every time I hit that wall and asked for more, I got the same answer I'd gotten years before. Just improve your foundation. It's not an answer. That's what a system tells you when it doesn't actually have an answer. Now, around at the same time, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, a devastating blow to many people, but I had a positive outlook and did not sit down and give in, even when told by the doctors that I must follow the standard treatment or I will die very soon. The standard treatment was aggressive. It was hard on the body, possibly even more horrible than the cancer, and by their own numbers, it was likely to buy me maybe a few extra months. Certainly not a cure. I wanted to be really clear about why I said no to the standard treatment path. It was because I sat down and I looked honestly at the numbers I'd been given, and they didn't add up to something worth going through. It wasn't because I was scared of the treatment. So I went looking for different options, looking for one where the odds actually made more sense for me. I actually found many options and I implemented one of them, and it worked. I got better. Now, I'm not telling you this to convince you to make the same medical choices I made. That's a decision every person has to research and make for themselves with their own doctors. I'm telling you because of what it taught me about the way to think. It taught me this. Just because a treatment or a method or a system is the one everybody uses and the one that's always been done that way, that doesn't automatically make it right, or even the best one for you. Medicine had one default path. Horsemanship had one default path. Dressage had two. I'd already spent many years testing horse training default paths against what I actually wanted to achieve, and they all kept failing me in the same way. So I stopped asking the horse world for a better version of the same idea. That is more pressure, more holding, more shaping the horse's body into position. Instead, I asked a completely different question. What does the horse do on its own, with zero training, zero equipment on its body, if you just leave it alone and watch? Here's what changed once Francie and I stopped believing what the horse world told us, and we started actually testing things ourselves. What truly changed was that we stopped trying to train collection, and instead, we helped our horses to allow their existing natural collection to emerge. Natural collection, the horse's way. This is a completely different paradigm. There is nothing in this paradigm that looks, feels, sounds like normal horse world programs. This is Equisit Natural Collection. This truly is for the thinking rider, the one who thinks about themselves and their horse and whether following the norm is actually for them. Over time, I've seen, heard and experienced that the horse world has developed and it perpetuates a great number of myths. What do I mean by myths? I mean that the horse world has almost brainwashed horse people to believe certain sayings, quotes, ideas and rules that have absolutely no basis in fact. Here's 5 examples. Myth 1, collection takes years of training to build. We've watched newborn foals, hours old, with zero training of any kind. They shift their weight onto their back legs, they produce movements that look like way better than the fanciest dressage moves you can name. Nobody taught them, nobody equipped them. If a baby horse that's never had a single lesson can do it, then years of training was never actually the necessity. Training was just a damn slow road that mostly never allows a horse and rider to arrive at the same place as what a foal can do from birth. And everybody mistook the slow road for the only road, because some famous riders once said it. Myth number 2. Horses need to build up strength before they can start collecting. This one just doesn't make any sense to me. Picture it in human terms. Imagine being told you're only allowed to start weightlifting once you already built the muscles you get from weightlifting. That's an impossible loop. You can only build that specific strength by actually doing the movement. You can't get there by going for a jog instead. And it's the same for horses. Riding a horse forward into rein contact for years builds long distance running muscles, not collection muscles. And every horse already has enough natural strength to collect, because most healthy horses are strong enough to carry a rider on their back. And they're also strong enough to rear and buck and spin. Just ask anyone who's been bucked or reared or spun out. Collection is easy for their bodies. It's not a strength problem. Of course, it does take some time to build endurance strength, but getting started does not need more strength and more muscle. Myth 3. Only expensive, perfectly bred horses can do real collection. Now, we've worked with foals as well as horses in the late 20s and all ages in between, from tiny Shetland ponies and even up to giant Shire horses. Horses that cost maybe a few $100s and all the way up to horses that cost a fortune. Across hundreds of horses we've personally worked with, every single one started producing collection once our method was applied effectively. That's not a lucky story. That's a same result over and over across multiple kinds of horses. Myth 4. You need reins, a fixed head position and steady pressure to get real power. Here's a direct example of breaks that rule. We bought a horse with excellent breeding and a clean vet check who within days of arriving at our place couldn't even bend his legs to lie down. He was diagnosed with a spinal cord compression termed wobbler syndrome. The usual medical answer was major surgery with a poor chance of full success. Once again, I chose a different path. So instead, we used our Equisit Natural Collection. No force, no pressure, just allowing Fame to experiment and allow his internal collection to emerge. And guess what? His symptoms went away. Now, if contact and forward running combined with holding the horse in place, like it is espoused in the dressage world, were really what creates strength, soundness and collection, then what we did with Fame, almost the exact opposite, should not have created the massive change in health, the removal of the symptoms, nor the collection and high collection outcome we witnessed and enjoyed with Fame. Myth 5. If the horse resists you or shuts down, the horse is the problem. This is the one that deserves the most pushback because it's a claim that can never be proven wrong. It always blames the one party in the conversation that can't defend itself. The horse. In every one of those hundreds of horses we work with, here's the pattern. When a horse's resistance actually changed, it changed because the human changed how they were communicating first, not because we fixed the horse. That's something you can test and repeat over and over. It's not just a nice sentiment. That's the whole foundation of everything we teach. The horse is never the limiting factor. The communication is. As an example, we bought a reject dressage horse from a Grand Prix home. He, Ludwig, was a reject because he would run the rider into the arena wall and crush their leg. He wouldn't go forward. He was not controllable. He was not obedient. And when Francie went to view him for purchase, they would not even saddle him, claiming he was too dangerous. Now he is our model high collection star, ridden with no reins, doing walk and trot and canter, collected canter, piaffe, passage, misère, levade, all with no bits, reins or spurs, and he's happy doing it. No wall collisions at all. The horse was not the problem. The system was. The human using the system was. We have a guiding North Star in Equisit Natural Collection to ride our horses with no contact, no bits, no reins, no spurs, no use of lower legs. Instead, we aim to become so aware and in control of ourselves that we can use our upper body combined with our pelvis, hips and thighs as our communication tool. So we can converse and have a dialogue with our horses. No more demanding. No more making or forcing them into frames or positions that do not feel congruent with our aims or with our horses. When people hear no reins, no contact, no fixed head positions, they assume that means less control. It's actually the complete opposite, because it actually takes a much more precision, much more control, and much more body awareness from the rider, not less. Let me walk you through some actual tests I ran on myself. I was so frustrated with trying to follow the conventional riding rules with my horses and having them do almost the opposite of what I wanted. That caused me then to demand more, to force more, that one day I threw the reins on my horse's neck and said, do whatever you want. So Smiley, my quarter horse, started walking and trotting all over the arena, and I did no pulling, no steering of him at all. I rode along with him, with no leg cues either. For several rides I did nothing except sit on and follow Smiley wherever he went, meaning whenever Smiley turned, I paid attention to and became aware of what that turn did to my own body, and I let my body turn along with it. So I basically followed his lead. Then after a time I flipped the order. I then started turning my own body first without any normal rein or leg asking my horse to turn at all. To my astonishment, Smiley turned with me. Calm, no fighting, no going the opposite direction on the very first try. And then it worked the same, turning the other direction too. Even serpentines. Here's the most important lesson out of this experience and the part that changed everything for me. What I did, how I set up my body for the turns, was the exact opposite of every single instruction I'd been given for 30 years of riding. And now the huge light bulb was lit. My horse had always been responding to my own body positions, my muscle tension, this whole entire time. I just never noticed it because every method I'd ever studied told me to bury that signal under rein pressure and leg pressure. Every system I learned said, if your horse doesn't do what you want, then use more leg, more rein, more stick until it obeys. But my poor beautiful horses were already listening to my body the whole time. The problem was, I'd been taught to use my body the wrong way. So my horse would try to follow what my body was actually telling it, even when that was the opposite of what I wanted in my head. Then I'd fight that with reins and legs and sticks to force the horse toward what I actually wanted. That's why we created a new riding system we call Seatology, for teaching riders how to influence their horses using their own body, their own posture, their muscle tonality, and their body energy, completely separate from pulling on reins or pushing with lower legs. We sometimes call this the Avatar connection, like the Avatar movie, where they rode those dire horses and they plugged into the nervous system, because it can feel exactly like you're wired directly into your horse's muscles and nerves, almost like magic. But there is nothing magic about it. It's plain physics. A horse feels your body position, your tonality, way before it notices anything else you do. And almost no training method ever acknowledges or isolates that signal long enough for a rider to actually notice it's doing all the work. Think about this. Almost every rider has heard that horses are so sensitive they can feel a single fly land on their butt. So, here's a question worth sitting with. Why does almost every traditional and modern riding method insist that horses need metal bits in their mouth, plus sharp steel spurs, plus whips, just to understand a simple request? And even more, the higher you go, meaning more excellence in any endeavor, generally the more steel or the bigger leverage is used in the horse's mouth. Surely it should be the other way around, that the higher you go, the better you are as a rider, the less you should have in or on your horse to communicate. It is just madness, in my opinion. Then, of course, the disciples pipe up and they'll tell you that you have to be an exceptional rider with phenomenal feel and skill to be able to ride in a double bridle or a shank bit or spurs. What a load of crap. It is just human blindness, just like the old belief that the world was flat, or that the sun used to revolve around the world, or that the world was the center of the universe. But physics and scientific world has evolved and moved on and improved. Unlike the horse world, which seems like it wants to or has to stay stuck in the hundreds or thousands of years of darkness. Well, not this little black duck. I'm moving on, and you are welcome to join me and Franzi as we discover new and exciting ways to communicate and dialogue with our horses. Let me say this right up front here. Equisit Natural Collection is not for every rider, and I'd rather just tell you that up front instead of pretending it is. It is for riders who've already tried several different methods, maybe natural horsemanship or classical or modern dressage or lightness training or others, and they hit a wall that those methods couldn't explain, where the only answer they ever got was something like, hey, push through it, or work on your foundation, or trust it's going to work. Equisit Natural Collection is for riders who are willing to look at their own communication as the thing that might need changing, not just the horse's behavior. If you only want to look at the horse as doing wrong, this program will frustrate you, because our method starts by looking at what you're sending the horse, not what the horse is sending you. And it's also for riders who want to understand why something works, not just accept it. If just trust the process is a good enough answer for you, you probably don't need this. But if you want actual back and forth conversation with your horse, instead of training a robot that just obeys commands, then our program is for you. Here's a 1-question test you can use on any training method you ever try, including this one. Ask your instructor to explain the actual mechanism behind the result, not the philosophy, not the feel-good story, the actual cause and effect. What makes this work? If the answer you get back is just improve your foundation, or some version of trust me, just keep doing it, that's not an explanation. That's a system protecting itself from being questioned. And if someone tells you the answer is to hold your horse's body in a certain shape using reins, legs, whips, and to just push it forward and demand obedience, that's not partnership. That's forcing an animal into submission and calling it training. Now I want to address 3 objections that come up literally every time I explain this. I'd rather answer them straight than pretend nobody asks. Objection 1. This sounds slower than normal training. Well, actually it's the opposite in every case we've documented. Traditional training spends years trying to build collection through repetition and holding the horse in a frame. We're not building anything new in the horse. We're removing whatever's blocking something the horse already has. Most horses show a real change in the very first session or first week. Not a year, not a decade, the first session or week. Objection 2. This sounds like there's no structure, like you're just letting the horse do whatever it wants. That's actually the opposite of true. This method demands more precision from the rider, not less. You have to know exactly what your body, your energy, your intention are communicating at every single moment, because your horse is always responding to whatever signal you're sending loudest, whether you meant to send it or not. Objection 3. If this really worked this well, wouldn't everybody already be doing it? And that's a fair question. And here's an honest answer. Most training methods were built to be taught to huge numbers of people using tools you can see and standardize, like reins, legs, equipment. That's easy to teach at scale and easy to demonstrate in a video. A method built around a rider's internal body awareness is much harder to teach to a big group quickly and slower to spread. Not because it doesn't work as well, but because it's harder to package into some simple technique. That's a problem with how it spreads, not a problem with whether it works. I'm not asking you to believe any of this just because I said it. I spent most of my adult life inside systems that asked me to believe things on faith, and every one of them eventually hit a wall it couldn't explain. So don't trust me. Test it. Start with what we call our 3-step framework for natural collection. It's the exact same starting point we give every single rider who comes to us, no matter their background or their horse's history. Watch what happens in your first few sessions, and then compare that to what the current method gave you in its entire first year. Across every horse we've ever worked with, every breed, every background, every starting point, the pattern has never once changed. The horse was never the limiting factor. Test it yourself. I left the details in the description below this video for you to be able to grab the 3-step framework for natural collection and test it out. But a word of advice, if it does not work for you, I can guarantee it's not the system. You just need some guidance and support, and that's what we offer to those who want a different way. Equisit Natural Collection, for thinking riders and caring riders. Bye now.